stories tomorrow morning about in the news. An offer has been made for the UK arm of Silicon Valley Bank after it collapsed into administration. This, of course, putting customer deposits at risk. The Bank of London has submitted a formal bid to the Treasury. Sarah Jones, Editor-in-Chief, PoliticsUSA.com. Sarah, tell us what's going on here.
Well, just moments ago, the United States government announced emergency steps to try and contain the damage by assuring clients that they would be able to recover all of their money quickly. So they are going to cover all of the deposits will be fully protected. Shareholders and unsecured debt holders will not be protected, and senior management has been removed. And they say that no losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Depositors will be able to get their money tomorrow, Monday the 13th. So this is what they're doing to hope to stem the fallout, on these bank runs, because yet another bank here has collapsed today.
So help me, tell me about that bank.
That's Signature Bank in New York. And so these fixes that the U.S. authorities just announced will also apply to that bank.
Why are these banks collapsing? Why now? What's happening within the economy?
Well, that's a great question. There's a lot of debate about what's going on, but certainly one of the largest issues was the rollback of the regulations over banks that was put into place after the 2008 banking collapse here in the United States. So there's been a lack of oversight with banks here, and that has impacted certainly the Silicon Valley Bank. And also a failure of bank leadership has been suggested by critics, and both of those will be investigated.
And of course, what the authorities will be worried about, Sarah, you know this better than I do, is within the financial sector what's called contagion, which is that fear and propels more people to have a run on the bank, and then you can get pretty decent banks starting to have massive amounts of savings being withdrawn. Now, is that why the authorities are moving in quickly here? And is there no danger of that happening?
Oh, no, I think there is a danger of that. And in fact, it is critical to contain the spread of this bank's historic failure, because at the end of 2022, there is more than $9.2 trillion of deposits in U.S. banks and credit unions that exceeded the federal regulator's insurance deposit limit here. And that's about 45% of all deposits. So yes, they do need to stop this, from becoming a contagion. And there's already been a lot of fear. I mean, it has only been 15 years since the last collapse here, which wiped out savings and retirement accounts. And what was being discussed about SVB was the fact that so many of the startups would not be able to pay their employees, who then wouldn't be able to pay their mortgages and all, it's just a snowball effect. But people are all over the country kind of getting nervous, especially about rural banks and smaller banks, which was a part of the rollback of those regulations. They mostly impacted not the, super top banks, the hugest banks, but SVB is a pretty big bank and it impacted them. So they had $200 billion in deposits at the end of 2022. So not a small bank. They were the 16th largest bank in the United States.
And here we get a sense then, do we, of how this story can affect other parts of the world when we look here at the UK arm of Silicon Valley Bank and an offer now being made after it collapsed into administration.
Right, and
after
they're trying
SVB collapsed into administration, obviously, I mean.
Exactly, and they're trying to get a jump on this before trading opens in Asia. So this is, there's this possibility, as you mentioned, this contagion, and that's really what they need to get a hold of. And hopefully, it looks like the Bank of London's offer, they did make that officially, and I've read that there were several other interested parties potentially. So if that doesn't go through, hopefully one of these other parties can step up, because it is critical to shore that up, the British technology sector. They said that they're not as exposed as we are here, but...
And Sarah, the big final question, the big retail banks that we are all aware of, and I can think of some big retail banks that are, based in the United States of America who have operations here. Chase Bank is a prime example of a massive institution that's here in the UK. It's in the USA. Is there any indication of any of these retail banks feeling any of the pain because of these tech banks?
There hasn't been yet, but I think, again, as you pointed out, I mean, a lot of this is emotional, right? It's the reaction of the consumer. It's the reaction of the people with the deposits in these banks and how much risk that's the other thing. We never know how much risk these banks have put themselves in, especially with the lack of oversight, until it's too late, until people go and ask for their money. So that is something that's going to be over all of our heads looming the next several days. And we hope that they have made better decisions than they did several years ago, 15 years ago.
Sarah, thank you very much. Nice to talk to you tonight. Very interesting story indeed. Sarah Jones, Editor-in-Chief at politicsusa.com. Benedict Spence, Kate Ironside, patient.